Hello, and welcome to another Pender Ventures podcast. I am Cheri Corbett, partner with Pender Ventures, and am continuing today with our founder series. My guest today is Lara Gilchrist, CEO of Traction Rec, an investment of ours we closed on in 2022. Pender Ventures is a venture capital investor focused on health tech and B2B technology companies at the inflection point between commercialization and scale. We are a team of hands-on, high-conviction investors who partner closely with founders to accelerate growth and build category-leading businesses. My guest today, Lara Gilchrist, CEO of Traction Rec. Lara has spent over 25 years working with BC-based technology companies with extensive experience in product management, customer experience, and sales. As the CEO of Traction Rec, she leads a high-performing team whose mission work is to amplify the amazing work of non-profit community centers. Outside of work, Lara spends her time running the trails in North Vancouver, learning how to springboard dive, and skiing with her family. She is a volunteer board member with the BC Diving and is a founding member of 10 Women Strong, raising funds and mentoring young women in partnership with One Girl Can. She lives in Deep Cove with her husband, 3 teenagers, and 2 very spoiled Bernese Mountain. Traction Rec is an enterprise management platform for community centers and was a spin-out of Traction on Demand. But more about that later.
This podcast is for information purposes only. It should not be viewed as investment advice or as an offer to buy or sell Pender's funds. Our funds are not guaranteed, and any discussion of past performance is not an indicator of future results. Any opinions expressed are as of the date of this podcast and are subject to change. Pender may not necessarily share the opinions of our podcast guests. More important information can be found on our website, penderfund.com/disclaimer.
So for now, I'd like to introduce Lara and initially hear a little bit more about your background. Over to you.
Thanks for having me, Cheri. This is stressful and fun all together at the same time. Oh, more fun than stressful, absolutely.
Fantastic.
A little bit about me. I grew up in BC and have loved the technology sector. So I kind of started way back in the day before it was even called TELUS. My first job at a university was working for BC Tel. That dates me enough right there. And then I spent, most of my early career in the semiconductor industry. So really fun, super interesting time. Got to spend a lot of time in Silicon Valley and lived through some boom and bust at that time for sure. And then I worked for kind of a smaller technology company, software simulation, and then joined Traction on Demand almost 9 years ago now.
And so Traction on Demand, maybe a little bit more history of that company and what it does.
Yeah, absolutely. So really great BC success story. When I joined, I want to guess there was probably about 200 or 300 people there, but Traction on Demand was a dedicated Salesforce system integrator. So a whole group of really smart consultants essentially was that company. And in the time I was there, we grew it to over, I think it was just over 1,400 people. And a couple years ago, Traction on Demand was acquired by Salesforce. And that is when we, as Traction Rec, so you'll notice the common theme, we like to use the word traction a lot. So that was a crazy fun experience. Traction Rec existed as a business unit and a wholly owned subsidiary of Traction on Demand. And we were not part of that acquisition by Salesforce. So I joke with people that we were kind of like teenagers that got told to fly the coop and get out of the nest. And based on the timing of that acquisition, we actually did that in 90 days. So became a fully independent company, established a fiduciary board, all that kind of stuff in 90 days. Lots of.
Were you working for Traction on Demand then, or were you already within Traction Rec at that time?
Yeah, so sorry to back up. So I worked, I didn't actually work long as a Traction on Demand employee.
Okay.
So I joined Traction on Demand because I really thought I should dip my toes into a bit more consulting. I had a lot of product management, a lot of product experience. I was recruited in And I worked on a couple of things at Traction on Demand, and then was quickly pulled into Traction Rec. And shortly thereafter, I started working very specifically on Traction Rec, and I can kind of tell you how that journey went a little bit later. And then I was considered the managing director. I ran that business unit, and then I became the CEO when we spun it out officially.
So maybe a few key learnings, like what is it like spinning out a company in 90 days, no less? I'm curious some of your key takeaways from that experience.
So we always knew we wanted to spin out. We lived under this really kind of phenomenal culture in Traction on Demand. There was a real kind of entrepreneurial spirit, and Greg Malpass, the founder, CEO of Traction on Demand, always talked about how he wanted to create companies and he wanted to take people with really great ideas. So there was actually 3 companies that were spun out of Traction on Demand, Traction Rec being one of them. So we'd planned for it, but we certainly didn't plan to do it in 90 days. So that acquisition happened a little bit faster than we thought. It was absolutely the best way to do it. It's kind of the analogy of rip the Band-Aid off. We made a lot of really quick decisions. We had to move to our own payroll system, our own banking system, our own Salesforce org, all sorts of things. And we were just under such a tight time crunch that we made decisions quickly. We assigned things. People got going really quickly. But we also had some crazy learnings. Like when you spin out a new company, you have no credit history. So we paid some of our bills off my personal credit card for a couple months while we sorted that out.
Wow.
We didn't think about that.
Yeah, and you wouldn't expect it, right? Because you've been operating and you are a going concern entity, right? So you
Absolutely
would have that.
We had good revenue. We were already breaking even. But yes, that was, you had to reestablish yourself. So we also really, again, leaned on some really great partners locally in Vancouver. And we got some great support all around. But when we did that spin out, we also recognized that we wanted to establish, a fiduciary board and bring an investor in at that time. We had lived through the COVID days. Obviously, nonprofit community centers were not booming during the pandemic. That's, seems like a long time ago, but that was
2022. I guess we were in the thick of it. Yeah.
We were in the thick of it. That was our customers had, exercise bikes in the parking lot and, furloughing staff and all that kind of crazy stuff. They were not looking at buying new software necessarily. So we knew that we had to be lean. We knew that we wanted to bring in an investor and have a bit of a nest egg there. And that's when we brought in the Pender team.
Amazing. And we'll talk a bit more about that in a little bit. So maybe for our audience, let's do a deeper dive into Traction Rec itself. So tell us a little bit about what the company does, the customers, how you're different, that sort of thing.
Absolutely. So building on our Salesforce history, obviously. So we knew Salesforce, and Traction Rec is built 100% on Salesforce. So we are what they call an ISV. So we co-sell with the Salesforce team, and we really kind of supplement that. We take the Salesforce platform and drive it to the last mile to a nonprofit community center. So if you kind of think about your local community center, your local YMCA, Jewish Community Center, Boys and Girls Club, those types of things, you're going to do programs, memberships, all of those kind of day-to-day transactional items. And so we have built all of those systems on top of Salesforce. So our customer base is largely in the US and Canada today. They tend to be nonprofit community centers that have a whole bunch of great mission work. So lots of kids, lots of adults, lots of gyms, lots of pools, all of those types of things, really great customer base. They certainly have a large social services element to them. They do a large amount of fundraising. Again, all of that is done on the platform with Traction Rec.
So what is the vision and where are you taking it next?
Yeah. So probably a little bit different than a lot of companies, software companies at the time. We were actually pulled into this market by customers. So they were dealing with end of lives on old technology, looked around and just didn't see a lot of great alternatives on the market. So that we started because we had a couple of Jewish community centers who are still great customers of ours. that they wanted to build their own custom software solution, and just recognized as a nonprofit, actually, as most companies, they should be in their own business and not in the business of trying to build software to maintain it, manage it, all that type of stuff. So they got together and asked us to help them do that. And originally, I think the vision was probably a little bit smaller than it became. We quickly realized that there was a larger market for this. Folks love the Salesforce platform. They just wanted to be able to use better tech, and there weren't a lot of vendors doing that. And so they started telling their friends about it, which was a really great way to acquire new customers. And so we, again, kind of expanded out of that JCC market. But the vision was always to, and we drive to this today, just because you run a nonprofit doesn't mean that you shouldn't have good tech. And they service, they have really complex businesses. Their customers have a high standard for what they want. Otherwise, they don't stay at their community center. So they're obviously very focused on retaining their membership, and we help them use technology to do that.
So how would you define your vision then within that? So it's just being that software layer for the interaction between the customer of the community center?
Absolutely. Yep. So all things, and then the way that they, so again, we enable them to do all of their marketing, their fundraising, their outreach, all of those transactional day-to-day activities as well. And so again, if you kind of look at nonprofit community centers, they're really interesting. They essentially run 10 different businesses under the same umbrella. So they may offer a gym, they will have a childcare element, they will do a high element of social services. So no matter who walks through their doors, they're going to find a program for them, and they're going to find a way to fund it. And that creates a really kind of complex system behind it, right? Mm-hmm. So we deal with a lot of we call it the third-party billing, and all, like, they will have folks on scholarships and all sorts of stuff. So we make that transparent to the end customer, right? All they want to do is get their kids into these programs, and we help work directly with those community centers to make that back-end piece seamless as well. So it is a very large, very complex product because our customers run very complex businesses.
Right. So really having this best-in-class product that has a very streamlined front end for the customer experience for that retention side.
Absolutely. And again, we often say it doesn't matter who's walking through your doors. They may become a really large donor at some point. They may be a member at your gym. They may have their kids or their grandkids going to your summer camp. Whatever they're doing there, they should have a phenomenal experience.
Amazing. I love that. So maybe a little bit about the industry and where you're growing. So what customer segment are you specifically focused on right now? And what evidence makes you confident that that's the right wedge?
So the customer segment that we today kind of live and breathe in a lot is what we kind of bucket them as nonprofit community centers. That's starting to extend out into kind of your Parks and Rec. So a municipal Parks and Rec center looks a lot like a YMCA, funded differently, sometimes through tax dollars versus donations. But again, they kind of provide that same level of complex services to their communities. So specifically in those markets, what we saw was coming out of the pandemic, there was a real pent-up demand for better technology. So if you kind of back up 15 years ago, it was a really big deal that you could start registering your kids online for programs. And people want to be able to access, registration, payments, we're all busy parents. You want to be able to register at 1:00 in the morning, all that kind of stuff. And really folks that hadn't made that shift and were still, doing stuff in disparate systems, a lot of manual work, they just recognized that wasn't sustainable. And we really see for us, kind of the more current trend in our customer base is folks are dealing, quite frankly, with really high operating expenses. So insurance is really expensive, staffing is really expensive. So they need to be able to kind of maximize that staff efficiency and maximize how they get people in the door. And so that is also driving for folks a real investment around they need to have better technology so that they can run those businesses efficiently. And we do see kind of the community centers getting larger. It's harder to operate kind of a smaller business today, notably with insurance and staffing costs. So that's a trend we see, and that plays really nicely to our strengths and where the product works really well.
As a parent of small children, I have to think about summer camps all the time. And it is January right now when we're recording this. And some of these registrations open up this weekend for the summer. So I'm well aware of how this, and I'm sure they're competing against the for-profit bike camps and all of the other things. And they want to ensure that they're getting that community and those people in. And so it makes sense that they need to have this layer there, and that's what people and customers expect.
Yes, absolutely. Welcome to our world. It is January. People always ask us if January is really busy from like a membership drive. So it is certainly all those folks that are like, oh, it's time for me to get fit. I'm going to join the gym and join a membership. And shortly afterwards, it is summer camp registration. So yes, most of our customers have already opened up summer camp registration for the summer. It's filling up.
That's the way it happens. So what are these community centers like to work with as customers?
So we find ourselves just so fortunate to get to work with these community centers. I have the privilege of traveling to a lot of them. I've spent probably more time at JCCs and YMCAs and Boys and Girls Clubs in the last few years than anyone I know. It is just so great to be able to go and really see our product in action, see the amazing good that they do. It is hard to not have a good time when you see kids having fun at a community center. And it is the people that work at a YMCA, they are not doing it because they are getting wealthy. They are doing it because they love community. And they're these vibrant places where everybody is welcome. And so that is contagious. It is so great. We always say, to be able to go on site, meet our customers and meet their community is the best part of our job. That was certainly something during the pandemic that we missed. And we did a whole lot of Zoom with them, and it was great to kind of get back on site with them. The other side of it is they are pressured to do a lot with very little money. And so often the staff that we get to work with on a project, they are still teaching swimming lessons and running the front desk and doing their marketing promotions. So they are the best multitaskers I have ever seen. And they have, they are deeply rooted. They often started, as a summer camp counselor. They have a passion for their community center, and we love to work with those folks.
So how big is this market? And further to that, do you have a plan to move past this market?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Into what? Yeah.
and what else are we going to do? Yeah. So we do feel like even though we've been at this for 9 years, really kind of been in the market selling the product as kind of generally available for the last 6. The overall market size, like recreation management, is huge. It's about $2.5 billion a year. And it's growing because people need to be more active, and people love community centers. So that's the good news. Is it's a really big market. So where can we go with it? Absolutely, kind of into that municipal rec we talked about. You mentioned summer camps, the private ones and the YMCA ones and the JCC ones. Summer camp is also kind of a nice market for us. We see a lot of customers, notably that are on the Salesforce platform, that are starting to offer this fee-for-service programming. And so we see a lot of interest. We are fortunate that we get pulled into some markets, and the Salesforce team does that with us. So we're seeing lots of drive from other markets that are offering those types of fee-for-service programming. Spring break camp, every parent tries to figure out where to put their kids. And the other kind of question is, do you bridge it out into the kind of for-profit world as well? We've certainly kind of had many inquiries there, and we're kind of picking our spots as we move out into kind of some more horizontal markets for sure.
And when you think about retention and expansion, just curious on what are some common reasons customers, not saying you have much churn, but if you do get some churn, why they churn or why you fail to expand them as customers?
Yeah, absolutely. So for us, we often say that first year is just really critical. So, it is a huge change management effort. So a lot of our customers have been on an older system for 20 years. And so it's a lot of like, we are kind of leapfrogging sometimes in technology. And they also have we've always done it this way. And they do provide this, kind of amazing service to their community. So you don't want to argue with just because you always did it that way, but we do a lot of that. So it is often more about the change management than the technology. And it is absolutely for our customer base, again, that because they have so much pressure as nonprofits to really kind of contain their overhead, it is really hard for them to hire a dedicated staff to make those kind of project transitions, which can make it even more kind of taxing on the staff. So we say that first year is really critical. We tend to double down our efforts and put in more of our team in that first year. And then really kind of sticking with them. Once they can get over that change management piece and really get their hands into the system, we find a real level of stickiness, and we continue to kind of see them adopt more features, especially like more modules as we roll them out. Again, because they run so many different businesses, if they can bring them all into the same system, it's a great win for them.
I can see that for sure. I can only imagine some of those, especially for not-for-profit staff that have been there a really long time. Change is always hard. Change is hard no matter what, but
Absolutely.
If you've been in that role for a really long time, but you have a new generation, millennials are having kids. Like there's a new level of expectation.
Absolutely.
So what are the 3 metrics you look at most often, and what do they tell you that other metrics may not tell you?
Mm-hmm. So we started this back in the day in our Traction on Demand days. We love a quarterly target, and we love a rally the company type of target. So we track that maniacally. Everyone does. And we use our Salesforce dashboards to do that, obviously. And that's often a new customer target. It's often, we do an NPS score. We typically pick 2 metrics and just rally the team around it. So our quarterly target is, one that I watch really closely. The other one, I'm probably a little bit fanatical about, and I'm not sure if our support team loves it, but I am always looking at the support dashboard. For us, yes, we bring phenomenal technology to our customers, but they choose us because we're going to be really great partners. So we need to have a really great support team. Our turnaround time has to be really high. And we just can't ever have any kind of slips in the system because our customers never close. A lot of our customers have gyms that run 24 hours. So they need those answers. They need them quick, and they need to be able to provide that level of customer service for us. So I maniacally track our support team dashboard, and I'm sure they'll be thrilled to hear that I'm often creeping in on that for them.
So support, downtime, that sort of thing is what you're tracking? Yeah. Okay.
And I also spend quite a bit of time looking at our customers get to, rank every support ticket that comes in. Okay. So anyone that's not providing a 5-star rating to our support ticket, I also look at and I review that data with our customer CEOs on a regular basis too. So yes, I am very customer focused in my role.
I love that though, but that's what you are. Like you're a customer facing software, right? So you need to make sure that experience from your customers is excellent so that it is for their customers.
Absolutely.
So maybe moving on to strategy now. Mm-hmm. What are 2 to 3 strategic bets you're making over the next 1 to 2 years? And what did you choose not to do in order to fund them?
What not to do. So
what did you choose over those? So what did you choose and why? And what did you not choose and why? Yes.
Okay, absolutely. So what did we choose to do? So being built on the Salesforce platform, again, a very intentional decision because the literal billions of dollars in R&D investment that they put into the platform, we can take advantage of in our product. So we are all in Agentforce. We love agents. We've been building them for the better part of a year. And we really view that as the future of our products, right? So this is integrated AI into the platform, safe, secure. And we are doing it both from a consumer perspective, right? So we have a registration agent that you, as the busy parent, don't need to search through a catalog to figure out what week. You can use that fully agentic experience to say, I'm looking
Amazing.
for 2
Cool.
weeks. This is what I want. Exactly. Put it in my cart and let me pay. And the other real kind of win there we see too is our customers they need to extend the reach of their community. So multi-language support, any time of the day, all that kind of great stuff. So from both a consumer facing, we are all in agents, but also from a staff efficiency and effectiveness, right? So I give the example of I have 3 teenagers, God bless me. And in the middle of the day, I get a call from my daughter who is panicked because she has run out of Chat GPT credits and she is trying to build herself a practice physics quiz. And I'm like, this is not an emergency that requires me to leave my work. But this is where that generation is operating.
Mm-hmm.
They are not living in Google. They are living in ChatGPT, Perplexity, all those type of stuff. And so that is, if you go to a community center, their new staff, their camp staff, that is where their staff is living. And they want that same experience. And so that is, we are all in. And that is absolutely kind of the roadmap and the future of our existing product. And our customers are loving it. Great level of adoption, which is fantastic to see, especially kind of nonprofits are often viewed as laggards in that. They are all over it because they just see the value of it to their community. So that is our big bet in there. The other area that we are absolutely kind of focused on is kind of that Parks and Rec market. Again, we're being asked to pull in a better product there. There's kind of a lot of older tech there. Anyone that has registered their kids with the city is well aware of that tech and probably wants a bit more of that agentic experience.
Every time you log in to do anything with the time start date.
Exactly. So yeah, we have a business development team that's kind of heading that way. That's kind of the other bet that we are making on that one. And then the third big bet we're doing is really around an all-in parent agentic registration experience. So really excited about that. Again, we are now using ChatGPT to plan our vacations. Parents are planning their summers in ChatGPT as well. So bringing that full experience to them. So that really kind of extends, again, that kind of horizontal play of it extends our existing product into other new markets and more standalone ones, right? Like, so a standalone camp type of market. We see all sorts of demand from like universities that offer summer camp, all of those things. So those are kind of our next kind of bets that we're making there. So no surprise, all things AI. What we are probably not, what are we kind of not focusing on just yet? Probably again, that kind of for-profit gym space, those types of, that's kind of a busier market. We've been asked to kind of start looking there. We may still dabble there, but really we see so much opportunity kind of in the existing market and being able to go wider with that product, especially with that agent front end differentiator. That's where we're headed.
And you've already talked about this a lot, but maybe just to summarize it for our listeners, how would you define the company's winning position in the market?
So we obviously look at market share and we kind of break them down into really kind of smaller markets. So we love to kind of tout things like how many locations, how many users we have. Last year we passed in terms of large YMCAs. So in the US, 8 of the 10 largest YMCAs are using Traction Rack, powered by Traction Rack. Phenomenal win. So market share is a big one that we track. Again, we're often displacing a vendor that's been around for kind of 20 years. The other one, a little bit harder to measure, but I like it a lot because I still have a lot of relationships with our customers. Is what are our customers recommending and how are they recommending us to their friends? So these markets tend to be very relationship oriented. Their executive teams tends to move around to different community centers. So we kind of track that sentiment really closely and that likelihood to recommend. And so that is another really kind of, for me, that is a winning metric when people are telling their friends how great we are.
Absolutely. And I feel like you may have already answered this next question on your big bets, but where do you expect your industry to be disrupted in the next 3 years? And what's your plan to lead rather than react?
Absolutely. So I view for us the big disruption is, again, as I said, like 15 years ago, it was like, wow, we can do online registration. This is where we're moving totally to an agentic experience. We also, I would say that my bet is that especially for kind of smaller organizations, right, your kind of small gyms, your small clubs, people are moving to very kind of niche products, right? And that idea of, I can use vibe coding to write my own piece of software and, I can power it by a basic e-commerce website. I think that is very, very true for kind of smaller businesses. And that is, it will be harder for software companies to really kind of have enough market share because there's just going to be so many offerings and so many kind of homegrown type of offerings in that kind of SMB space. What we see in the larger enterprise space, again, is those customers are getting bigger, right? They are buying up, kind of smaller community centers. The big ones are getting bigger. And they are just going to have kind of that same level of demand for performance, right? So they can't have systems crashing because they literally have 50,000 parents trying to register at the same time.
All at the same time, yes. Or their agent helping them do so.
Or even better if they have an agent doing it. So that for kind of those bigger customers, that enterprise level, they cannot have those kind of smaller homegrown systems that crash. They need that uptime. But they also, I absolutely believe that we are heading towards that experience of, I want to be able to plan my life and have an agent do my registration, update my credit card, let me know when the gym is closed, all that type of stuff. That is where folks are headed. And that's where we want to take the product. It's going to be a big disruptor.
Absolutely. I agree with you there. And so if you had to describe the company strategy as one sentence that every employee can repeat, what is it?
I love a slogan, and our team is pretty aware of it. So 2026 for us, we have a bit of an interesting fiscal year that's already started, so we're deep into it. Ours is all about loving the heck out of our customers. And so, community centers are having a tough time. There's a lot of funding uncertainty right now. They are being asked to do more with less. There has never been more demand on our customers to service their community. And they need our help now more than ever. So everyone in the company is being tasked with loving the heck out of our customers, those touch points, solving their problems and figuring out what they can do next for them is the mantra that we are working with today.
That's consistent with the 5-star reviews or whatever will be calling you that I heard.
I know.
So then moving from that to culture, same with the kind of one sentence, how would you describe your culture in one sentence?
So I tell people we have somehow amassed this eclectic group of really, really smart people that care deeply about community. And I wish I had a perfect formula of how we came up with it, so I could always repeat it. But somehow it is this fantastic group. And so one of the things we do when we onboard new employees, within their first 30 days, they have to book a 30-minute coffee chat with me. It is a requirement for them to pass their 30-day checkpoint. Everyone, I say to them, I ask them two things. What's your favorite part about Traction Rec? And what's your least favorite part about Traction Rec? And hands down, everyone says it's the people. And so that is our culture. We want to continue to grow with a phenomenal group of people, and being that kind of people could depend on each other is what we're going for.
How many people did you spin out with, and how many people do you have now?
So when we spun out, we were about just under 40 people, and we're just over 100 today.
Wow. So that's quite a significant growth. That's great. And so every one of those individuals, they get 30-minute coffee, talk to you.
Whether they like it or not. Yes, they do.
That's great. And so as CEO, I think you already kind of touched on it, but what do you do to ensure a strong company culture?
Yeah, I mean, it isn't easy. Absolutely. Like we have a team that's spread out. We have an office, but we want people to come into it, but they're not all in Vancouver. So really, how do we kind of maintain that strong culture? We try and make ourselves really accessible. I am also a really big believer in fun. And so again, I feel like I learned this a long time ago. We don't try not to take ourselves too seriously. We're enabling some really great mission work, but we want to have fun with it too. And so we try and plan our events a little bit more around fun. We encourage our team to kind of volunteer, but everything is about kind of being authentic and fun. And I love that. And some of that comes from our senior leadership team. Some of it comes, homegrown. We have a couple of staff members that love board games, and somehow board game night is a really big thing and draws more people to our office than I could have imagined. But yeah, if people put a lot of work, and the work too can be emotionally exhausting too. And so we need to balance that with some fun.
Yes, fun always helps. I can imagine you guys in a community center doing like dodgeball or something like that.
We do love that, and we have done
that. And so maybe just like you're a software company at the end of the day, and so how are decisions made when there's disagreements between, say, product or engineering or sales or customer success?
Yeah, I mean, the reality of running, any type of company is there's more to do than you have time and people to do. And so that healthy debate is always there. When people come to me and sometimes they ask me, like, we can't decide on this, what are you going to do? I always ask them, like, what's the impact to our customers and what's the impact to our team? And that's really kind of for us, being able to kind of put that customer first, and make those decisions and make those priorities, has been the way that we have been very successful and continue to kind of retain and acquire new customers. It's a winning strategy for us. And sometimes you have competing customer interests, but yeah, we are always trying to put what is best for the customer at the top of that decision.
That makes sense. And so maybe moving on now to fundraising. Tell me a little bit more. You started at the beginning, but tell me a little bit more about your fundraising journey. What was the process like? Any key learnings or takeaways for our audience?
Yeah. So though we planned to spin out as a company, we did not plan to fundraise. So unlike most companies who had, established relationships with investors and talked to many people before they needed to raise, I would highly recommend that for other companies. We didn't do we didn't do that. So we knew we needed to do a small raise, and we essentially went out to our Vancouver network. So obviously, Greg Malpass was well connected again with Traction on Demand, but he was also very much like he was so fantastic. He was like, you guys, so to myself and my peer group, it was like, you guys are going to run these companies. And having somebody that sits on your board has to be, has to be really good. So it has to be your choice. So we spent some time interviewing people, but really what I did was I phoned people I knew and said, who's your investor and do you like them? And the Pender team was kind of top of the list. They came with such a great referral from so many local Vancouver companies. And many of those were kind of personal friends of mine. So I knew that they were real referrals.
Talking straight, yes.
they were not fluffing it. And the other thing that, kind of specific to Traction Rec and my one big ask of the team was, when we spun out, I said, we're going to establish a board and I would really like it to have gender parity. And so it's something, kind of, I had just never seen growing up in technology. And so when Maria had stepped forward, we loved, when we interviewed her, we loved the Pender team, and her willingness to come in and step in on our board was such a win for us. And Maria has just been a fantastic win for our team all around.
That's amazing. She has so much experience and she helps leverage a lot of that with your strategy and your growth and everything.
Absolutely.
You've seen a lot. So when you come across a hurdle, she can typically give you examples of, well, these are 3 situations where X, Y, and Z happen. And that helps a lot to have that on your board.
Yeah, absolutely. And she's just she's been fantastic too at connecting us with other companies that have been through these types of things, and referrals on hiring, referrals on other companies to talk to that have been through, other journeys, know something about it. That has been invaluable to me.
Yes, and I have also been the only woman on a board many, many times. And I would have to say, as soon as even just one other woman comes on, it really just changed the conversation. And when there is parity, I've had one board where there was more women than men, just one, the female founding team. And then I came in as a lead investor. It's doesn't happen that often, but it's a nice dynamic, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty uncommon in software.
Mhm.
And was kind of a nice bonus win for us. Obviously wasn't the only driver, but it was a nice win.
So how do you leverage partners in your network?
So we use all sorts of partners. We are big on partners. So, I mean, we also have we've always been so well connected in kind of the Salesforce ecosystem, right? So there's a whole partner network there. The Salesforce Ventures has a whole partner network there. But, kind of real specifically how we've been using the Pender team and their partner network has been, so I'm a big fan of the annual conferences that the Pender team hosts. Early days for us too. We really, like when we first spun up, we didn't have an HR or people team. And so that was where, kind of the Pender team stepped in and had some resources for us and connected us with kind of like the local TAP network. And that is a resource that we continue to use around kind of just figuring out how do you keep yourself out of trouble on the people side, but also how do you grow, how do you reward people, those types of things. They were questions we just never thought to ask ourselves. And so the Pender team has kind of just been really great about kind of sharing with us, how do you in terms of how you run your business. And they do a really great job of adjusting it to hey, at your stage and your size and the kind of money that you have. That has just been kind of really great. And absolutely, there's been kind of a nice growing little network of folks that get together that are all kind of Pender funded and kind of share our war stories and, our opportunities. So that kind of support for our business has been fantastic all around.
So in closing, I just have a handful of questions left for you. The first being, what are you most proud of that outsiders don't see?
For me, it's always about the team. So running kind of a startup team, I think back to my early days in my career, and people let me do things that I probably had no business doing. And the idea of you have, this group of people that sometimes we're doing things for the first time. And, that kind of acknowledgement of none of us have ever done this before. Well, let's try it. And I think, again, letting people, taking a chance on people, seeing people shine. We've had some staff that have been with us for just a phenomenal amount of time. They started with us when they're really young, and seeing them now, they're starting families, all that kind of stuff. That for me has been on a personal side, just the most rewarding, is seeing their growth, and some stay with us and some move on. And I love the opportunity that they've all gotten from Traction Rec.
I love that. I think work is a big part of your day-to-day, right? And I think if you can build that culture and that community at the office, it helps in all aspects of your colleague's life, right? So
Absolutely.
I love that. What is the biggest thing you're still trying to prove as a company?
Oh, that's a really good question. I would say for the longest time, we kind of lived in the shadow of Traction on Demand. And so there was, maybe it was our own insecurities because we were so lucky. We got to build a startup under kind of a larger company. So we kind of had this safe cover all the time. And I think there was always the question of could we have done it on our own? And so we have done it on our own, but we probably still live in a bit of the shadow of that traction on demand. So yeah, that's probably what we're still proving.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a possibility that that's probably gone now. It's been long enough, but I think it's what drives you, right? Like, how do we become our own standalone behemoth in this space? And if that's what drives you, then I'm all for it.
It made us scrappy for a long time. It's funny. It's probably only the Traction Rec leadership team that ever thinks about that. Everyone else is
exactly.
That's so far in the past. You guys don't ever think about that. But yeah, when you're kind of the small fish in a big pond, you're always trying to be scrappy. So that was us for the longest time.
It's a good mentality to have, honestly, even as you grow. So
yeah, absolutely.
What do you do for fun? We talked about it at the beginning a little bit in my intro, but curious, you're obviously incredibly busy, dogs, spouse, kids, CEO, all the things.
It is never boring at my house. Yes. So I am an avid runner. I have been a runner for a really long time. If I had more time, I would run more. I still run with the same group of women that I've run with for almost 25 years now. So that is my fun, happy place. We hit the trails, and I certainly see that. I do love my dogs more than anything. Hank the Tank and Pop Tart, they are great companions, and they never complain about what I feed them for dinner. Watching teenagers grow has just been this phenomenal experience for me. My oldest has just gone off to university, and I'm still setting one too many plates at the dinner table. So I think, what will I do when I have more time? But really, like, what is my hobby? I'm the Uber driver. When I am not working, I am driving them everywhere. So that is also fun.
So you now need the agentic agent to facilitate that part of your life. And then
I probably need my own Waymo. And then I would have so much more time in my life. But yeah, I would love to, I love giving back to my community. And so I am a big part of all the things that my kids do. And that is continuing as well.
So we always end with a book recommendation. What have you read lately that you would like to share with our audience?
I'm so embarrassed. The time for me to read, I was like, when was the last book I read? So because, as I said, I'm mainly Uber driving, and I live on the side of a field in a community center.
The podcast, then, podcast is also a busy mom and someone that has zero time.
I was going to say, I have embraced the podcast world and audiobooks. So I am almost through and deep into the anxious generation, which has just made me more anxious. So would I recommend it? Yes. But as a parent, also doesn't make you feel good, but makes you think about a lot of stuff. I do love a true crime podcast, just like most people, but I'm a really big fan of the Prof G podcast. I don't know if you listen to that one. I think that one is so great because it always touches on like technology and life trends and all that kind of stuff. That one always feels pretty applicable to what I'm doing every day in the office. So those would be my recommendations, but I will absolutely get back to my love of reading at some point when I have more time in my life.
Well, I will add those to my, yes, I hear you. I will add those to my listening list because that's also how I get through most things is audible or podcast. Amazing. So that's a wrap. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you making the time in your very, very busy week and day. Just thank you. And thank you to our listeners. You can find more resources on our website, penderventures.com, and we'll be back in the podcast studio again soon.
Thanks, Cheri.
Pender Ventures is a venture capital investor focused on health tech and B2B technology companies at the inflection point between commercialization and scale. As a hands-on, high-conviction investor, Pender Ventures partners closely with founders to accelerate growth and build category-leading businesses. With deep roots in the Canadian innovation ecosystem and the flexibility to invest across North America, the team operates from offices in Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal, and Calgary. Learn more at penderventures.com.